You're listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast with Angela Henderson, episode number 7. Hey there, you're listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast. My name is Angela Henderson, and on this show, we talk about improving your business, life, or both by having amazing and rich conversations with brilliant guests who will inspire you and who will give you tips and tricks to help you grow both in life and in business. All right, it's another episode of Business and Life Conversations podcast with me, your host, Angela from Angela Henderson Consulting. And I, along with all of you, are so fortunate to have the most amazing guest with us today to talk about a very important topic, mental health. During today's show, you're not only going to get to hear a story about Kietah's own personal journey with depression and anxiety, but through her own personal experience, cultivated a unique concept and method that provides support and encouragement for others nationally around Australia to live each season with a reason, the Be Okay Ideas movement. So sit back, grab a coffee, tea, wine, or heck, a mojito. You know, it is 5 o'clock somewhere because the show is going to be brilliant. Welcome to the show, Kietah.
Thanks for having me. Nice intro.
Dude, thank you. But thank you for being on the show. If you can't tell, I'm super pumped to have you here today. We were just talking pre-show. And I'm not too sure. I mean, you know now, but before the show, you did know that I'm a massive advocate for mental health, not only because I'm a mental health clinician of 15 years, but I too, over the last 18 months, have gone through extreme, severe depression and anxiety. So you could only imagine how I couldn't get to the computer quick enough when you applied. So I was reading through your topics and I was like, oh my gosh, where do I get to my email so I could contact you? Because the topic of mental health is true and dear to my heart. It's one that's not talked about in our society often. So I'm super, super excited to have you here. If my level of my voice isn't showing you that, it is.
It is. Thank you for having me.
No. So pumped to have you. So before we jump into knowing more about this movement you've created, which is great, and how also 10% of that goes to another agency, which we'll talk more later, I'd love for listeners, I guess, to rewind a little bit about who you are, what you do, but also tell us a little bit more about, your story so far on your own mental health journey.
Yeah, of course. My name's Kietah Martens-Shaw. Thanks for having me. And I guess I wanted to share my story with you because I have found, since I've been sharing my story as much as I have, that a lot of people have been inspired by it. And it all started around 3.5 years ago. I actually got cervical cancer, which was a bit of a world shaker for me. I was a very sporty, independent person, and all of that was turned upside down. And it is something that has shaped myself to the day now, and did lead towards me going through a period of depression and anxiety. Over the last 3 years, I've now had 2 cervical cancer operations and kidney disease as a reaction to my medication. And for me, I think the biggest thing that led me into a depression was I really lost my urge to be here. I lost the reason why I was here. I lost all feelings of drive to live, and it was really because my independence was gone. I lost what felt real with life, and was kind of just gliding through things. Anxiety for me was at one point where I couldn't concentrate on one thing at a time. I couldn't stop thinking about it coming back. I couldn't stop thinking about the next checkup, and always anxious and worried about what was about to happen. And for me, at the age of 22, when it all happened, it was something that really propelled me into an adult world and a life of responsibility and paying bills and finances and surgeries and things like that, which no one can prepare for.
Totally.
I was very lucky to have support around me, but in a lot of cases I felt very alone. I felt very misunderstood. And at the age of 22, a lot of my friends were going to Europe and traveling and doing their own thing, and not, in my case, going into a hospital and getting checkups and things like that. So it was quite hard for them to relate to. And in that case, it was hard for them to talk to me about it. It was hard for them to bring that up in conversation. And I guess that kind of segregated me into a feeling of loneliness and put me in a state of depression that I really didn't understand and didn't know how to get out of. And now for me, it's a very big passion of mine to let people know that they're not alone, and to start this conversation, because when I was going through what I was going through, it was a hard topic to talk about only just 3 years ago, and a lot has changed in 3 years. And I hope that I can be a huge part of that change and turning that stigma around about the conversation. But I think in a lot of cases for me, it was, oh, should I talk about it? Oh, no, don't talk about it. No one's interested, or, oh, no one understands it, or, oh, I'll freak someone out and they won't want to be my friend, or they won't, it's a whole another element to a friendship. And it was a very hard conversation for me to have, and very hard for me to get through. And even still to this day, I have periods where I'm unsure what I'm doing, and uncertain about my direction and my mental state. But I suppose in the last 3 years, the thing that I've learned the most is having a purpose is really key. And I've found that with Be Okay Ideas, but also, believing in the path that I'm on, and knowing that tough times don't last. And for 3 years, I was waiting for that moment to feel, oh, that's why that all happened, or that feeling of, okay, all right, that was pretty crappy, but let's move past that and concentrate on this, which is quite positive. But I would not change a thing. I'm a very sympathetic and empathetic person now. I understand people on a completely different level, and I feel more purpose than ever in my life, and I love being able to help others, and I love knowing that what I'm doing may save or help 1 or 2 or 1,000 people that were in my boat, and making sure that doesn't happen to them and feel the way I felt.
And would you also say that, you said initially when everything was happening that you had friends who were like traveling and they were doing all those things. As young people, we are quite consumed within ourselves. Let's be honest. Like, you don't really think much about anything. You're like, where's the next, beer, or where's the next trip? Or, you're just like getting through uni, you're doing whatever. But I would only assume that because of what you've had to go through, you're in a very different spot anyways from where some of your friends probably even are. Like, they're probably still having to learn some of those things that you've already had to learn. Like you said, paying bills for surgery, doing the checkups, being on to, like, you're probably very in tune with yourself. What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely. Like, I've spoken to a lot of people that have gone through anxiety and depression themselves, and something that we can really relate on is how in tune we are with our own feelings now, and how in tune we are with, oh, I'm feeling a bit of anxiety. Oh, this is making me feel uncomfortable. But not only what you're feeling, but also in tune with and aware of how you can get on top of those feelings, and how you can, I suppose, deal with that in the moment and overcome it. And for me, for example, I've been going to a psychologist now for a year, and she's incredible. And she's taught me serious and important methods and actual mechanisms to improve my, I suppose, like my mental state and how I'm working through things. And with those tools, with those actual tools, I can in a moment be like, okay, I'm feeling a bit of anxiety. It's because of this. What I'm going to do is this, and work through those methods. And in some cases, people who experience anxiety and depression, etc., it's not a bad thing. It's a really great thing to open your eyes to another world and be able to be more in tune with yourself.
And I would relate to you, like, definitely, anxiety probably plays more key for me than anything else. And there's just certain things that, I'll notice along the way when the anxiety is starting to creep in. Like you said, you're more in tune with your body, going, okay, well, hold on. Why do I physically feel like this? And then you can name it. Oh, yep, it's anxiety creeping in. And like you said, you can almost step backwards and go, okay, what's happened in the last week? What's happened in the last 24 hours? Or what do I need to do now? So whereas before you had this feeling, but you weren't able to name it. It was just like, for me anyways, everyone's journey is very different, but and I think as what you said is, I guess, unfortunate or fortunate, any way you want to look at it, is when you have full-blown depression and anxiety, the reality of it is it may impact us again at some stage in our life, but more than likely we've got better coping strategies to deal with it if it hits us out of the blue. But it's something that we just have to be mindful of. So the quicker we can get those tools like you're talking about and have those strategies, I think it's so much better. But yet, so many people won't do it.
Absolutely. And, the taboo of, I go to a psychologist, there's a very big stigma around that of, you're crazy, or, why do you go to a psychologist? But, I really strongly believe that when people let that wall down and they open their arms to such an amazing system of help, that they'll really see how much it can transform you. Whether you have depression, anxiety, or you're just going through a tough time, you don't need to have a mental illness to go to a psychologist. They're professionals that are going to help guide you and those strategies in place for you every day to day. So, I'm a big believer in it.
And though we don't talk about mental health, the reality is your story is one of many, such as mine. And I'd like to give some additional stats for those people who are listening out there who might be shaking their head, kind of going, ooh, they're bringing up some great points, or, I've been feeling this way for a while, or I don't know where to go, or etc. But for those in Australia, now I can't talk about obviously the statistics around the world because that would take me an entire podcast to go through. But for Australia in particular, suicide remains the leading cause of death for Australians aged between 15 and 44. The other stat that's quite amazing, and from a numbers point, is Australia's suicide rate is the highest it has been for the last 10 years. And this was reported back in 2015, where we had 3,027 people who ended their lives in Australia for that year, which at that particular time was 8 people every single day were taking their lives. That was on average 1 person every 3 months. And what genuinely breaks my heart is that if you had a broken leg, people would go and get help. If you had a broken back, you would get help. If you had a broken arm, you would get help. But if your heart is broken, people are so reluctant to get the help they need. And this is why we're ending up with, close to 3,000, if not more, suicides a year, on average 8 a day here in this country. Why do you think that is?
I think there's it's back to the stigma as well. There is a large stigma around having that discussion, but also it being considered as a weakness. And a lot of people don't want to admit, I've got anxiety or depression and it's a weakness. So they internalize it. So if someone's internalizing something, they're not actually reaching out to others. And it could be as simple as you get fired from a job and you just talk to a friend about how that makes you feel. But in a lot of cases, people keep it inside, and from just a job that they've been let go from, it could end up being a year battle with depression and why me and I'm a failure and all of these really unhealthy messages in your own mind. And you really do need to get help, whether it's a friend, just having a conversation for them to bring you back to reality and say, hey, no, you're not dumb. You haven't been fired because you're worthless and weak, and getting that reiteration and positive reiteration, and I suppose bringing you back to reality, because in a lot of cases, you are making these things up in your mind. You are building these things up to become something that wasn't even there in the first place. And a lot of people don't see that. They're not aware of that. And back to the awareness thing as well. I think it's a really traumatizing statistics that you're going through. I personally lost two close friends in 1 year just before I launched Be Okay, and who took their life. And it was very interesting for me to, I suppose, work into why and how and what they were feeling, and talking to family and friends and really getting to the bottom of what was going through their minds as well. And at the end of the day, there's not much you can do to understand it, but be there for them and to listen. But yeah, in a lot of cases, people are building these things up in their own minds to escalate to a point where it's like, hold on, you need a little bit of guidance here to get you back on track to what's positive and real.
And I also think, so many times it's often that, depression has also a stigma or a facade, or you must be sad to be depressed. So therefore, if you're not sad, you are fine. And I wrote a blog article when everything first kind of happened with me, and it was called "Just Because I Smile Doesn't Mean I'm Not Depressed." Yeah. Because so many people, I'm including your friends that I'm assuming there, that took their lives. You look at Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, in the last week, that the facade is everything's cool. They've got millions of dollars. They've got, they've got their families. They've got this, and everything's all right. And we're less likely to actually ask people if they're okay, because we assume everything's okay. Would you agree, disagree?
Yeah, judging a book by its cover. I know I can't tell you how many people were shocked when I actually started coming out to tell people that I was going through depression. I was an extrovert. I was happy. I was bubbly. I was everything but what you would look at if you were to draw a avatar of someone who's depressed. Everyone's got this idea of what a depressed person looks like, and it's not that. And it's very internal. And I really, really agree with you that how people see a broken arm or see, something physical that you can visually see, and you go, oh, you should get that fixed. But unfortunately, with mental health and the feeling of depression, and when someone is feeling low, you can't see that, and it can be very well hidden. And sometimes the people that are hiding it the best are the ones that are hiding something quite large, and overcompensating. And I have done a lot of research into this, and I've actually read that a lot of extroverts are the ones that are hiding quite a lot because they're overcompensating with their extrovert personality. And I very much apply in that case. And I noticed that a lot of friends and family were like, what, you depressed? What, And that actually made it a bigger barrier for me to open up. Yeah, I was like, oh, I can't tell people because they won't believe me. They'll think I'm crazy. They'll think I'm making it up. All of these different things that go through your mind. But at the end of the day, you need to have your own back as well. I knew that I was not right. I knew that I needed to talk to someone. And I was really lucky that I had a great support system that were open to these conversations. But for those who don't think they do, try. You don't know until you try.
No, absolutely. And I know that you touched upon it, but when I was reading through, on your website, your own tough times, and you felt that it was hard for family and friends to reach out and offer support or know what to say, and that even though you had so much support around you, you still felt more alone than you ever had before. Yeah. But as a result of this feeling of loneliness, you decided that something needed to change. You weren't going to let anyone else suffer the same way you did. And thus you created this beautiful movement called the Be Okay Ideas. Now, this movement sounds amazing. And obviously I've only read about it, so I'm super intrigued to hear more. But can you explain in depth more about the Be Okay idea and how it's the only box, in the Australian market that provides unique ways for individuals to be reminded and encouraged to live each season with a reason? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, yeah, I as you know, I did feel a period of loneliness, and in that period of time, I said to myself, "There's got to be more." I'm very honest with you right now. I've faced a period where I didn't know if I was going to continue. I didn't know how to continue with my life or want to really, and I couldn't think a week ahead. I couldn't think, 6 months ahead, I might have a holiday planned or something longer term. I needed something to look at in a week, in a couple of days, something to concentrate my efforts on that was positive and not necessarily just about my depression. I wanted something to concentrate on that was a positive that would help with the depression. And yeah, I thought of the idea of how there's lots of friends and family of mine that are outside of Sydney, and a lot of family and friends that were trying to support via phone or text. And that's hard to do. So I was like, how can I get people to support me while they're not with me physically, but know that they are there for me and care for me? And I thought of the idea of Be Okay Ideas with a Be Okay box. And essentially it's a box full of the latest tips, tools, and methods on how you can get through a tough time. And with this, it's got a 63-day support method, which is an Advent envelope system, which you open an envelope every 7 to 14 days. So for me, this was really driven by my own personal struggles. And when I was down, there was so many times where I'd be like, okay, you're feeling down. What would you like to receive in a Be Okay box? So all of the contents inspired by myself actually helped me through my time as well. And with the Advent envelopes, the biggest motivation for that was, as I said before, I couldn't think, a month, 3 months, 6 months ahead. I needed something a little bit more, now or shorter term. So with the envelopes, opening a new envelope every week will have a new quote, concept, and gift for the recipient to concentrate on. And it guides them through mindfulness, relaxation, meditation, and different methods for them to work through. And having that seasonal aspect, you've said living each season with a reason. I was very affected myself by season, and there is a very high rate of people who go through depression during winter and during those tougher months seasons where you're actually stuck indoors, or you're not doing the things you love when you're outdoors and getting that mental health outlet. So for me, there was a big inspiration around doing seasonal boxes. And with this 63 days, you can be actually providing someone a support every single season. So we've got a subscription base as well, where a person can purchase a subscription and they receive the Be Okay box every single season and getting that 63 days every season. And for me, it was all about, hold on, what happens after 63 days? I want this to be something that people can access consistently. And it's not just one box that you purchase at one point in your life. It changes, it updates, it has those tools and methods each season for you to access. I think I answered the question there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So again, so how would people, if they're, if they know someone who might need this box, tell me, how would they, do they, like you said, it's a subscription, or can they go and buy one box for 63 days, or how would a family member be able to purchase this?
Yeah, well, for me, I wanted to make it very easy and accessible for someone who is supporting someone going through a tough time to be able to reach out. So that's the whole point of it. But I also want people who are going through a tough time and don't want to wait for someone else to support them and just support themselves, they can purchase the box. So a Be Okay box can be purchased one a season. So if you decide that you'd like to buy one for winter this year and then you won't like one until spring next year, it's a matter of a one-off purchase, that's fine. However, we've had quite a few subscriptions come through, which means they are going to receive a Be Okay box at the beginning of every season. They'll be the first to receive the latest tools, tips, and methods for the Be Okay box that season. With that, they'll also receive a surprise Be Okay box for their birthday, which is very exciting. And just adding a bit of added value there, and they'll have access to some discounts around some mental health brands that we've got on board, and sending Be Okay boxes to any family and friends in need as well. So it's all about creating a bit of a community, which I think we've done really well on and offline so far.
So then with that, so people can purchase it that way. So I guess obviously, because this is about business and life conversations, talk me through a little bit about what your business model is.
Yep.
So are you profit, non-for-profit? Tell me about that.
So we're a social enterprise. So we are definitely backing the mental health world, and we have 10% of our profits going to Waves of Wellness, which is our charity partner. I had a very big passion to join with Waves of Wellness because I personally connected with what they're doing. So they're providing people who are going through tough times with mental health a non-clinical environment to give them advice on anxiety, depression, etc., and doing it on the beach. And after they have a session with a psychologist, they're actually heading into the ocean and going surfing. And one of my big, I suppose, things that helped me through, in addition to starting Be Okay, was surfing and the ocean and the outdoors. And I'm a really big advocate of those who are going through tough times just to take a stroll or just to go for a swim in the ocean. And something so small as that can really change and flick your mindset into a more positive state. So yeah, what Waves of Wellness is doing is really amazing, and we want to support that. So each season we are donating 10% of proceeds to Waves of Wellness, and we're also trying to organize community events each season to build that money up, which is really exciting.
Dude, totally awesome, because I know with working in the mental health wards, for example, that obviously at some stages in mental health you have to be admitted, you know. However, unfortunately, fortunately, I guess how you would want to look at it, we are fortunate that we have medical support, yes. However, I remember when I would walk into the wards, I was like, how can people recover in here? Sometimes, like, I'm like, and this is the public, not the private, all right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's dark, it's gloomy, you know, like it's so clinical. So the fact that Waves of Wellness is another outlet for those who aren't in that crisis peak, all right, that they can still access a psychologist. But I couldn't agree more to you about the importance of sunshine, blue skies, feeling, you know, sand between your toes. I think all of those things are something that mental illness or not, people are missing in their day-to-day lives. But the benefits, if you are suffering, do you know what I mean, are struggling just in life, you don't have to have a full-blown mental illness. But yeah, people can benefit. So Waves of Wellness, they get 10% donations every season to help that grow. You also do some community events, which is great. Yeah. Tell me, though, what have you found is your biggest struggle for the Be OK Ideas movement? Is it awareness? Is it partners? Is it staff? What is it?
Probably a mixture of all of that. So that I am a very driven, hardworking person, and I struggle to say no, and I always want to be doing more. So for me, getting help is definitely something that would be a struggle of mine. And, you know, at the moment, it's not at the point where we can hire anyone to support, but it is one of those situations where you're like, I could be doing more, or, we could have doubled the donations, or, you know, whatever it is. But I really do believe there have been things I've put in place that are starting to support that. For example, we've got an online community on Facebook, Be OK Buddy Community. And with that, there's been so many different people come from all over the world that have said, hey, can we host a Be OK Buddy breakfast? Can we get on board and support this, this, and this? And how can we, emphasize what you're doing? And it has shown since I've started Be OK how incredible the people in the world are supporting this. So we aren't alone in what we're doing. And, you know, as you said that you're a big advocate of it, there are a lot of other people that are advocates of this. So it's really great to see people coming out and wanting to support. So that's kind of like an issue of mine, but it's also being resolved slowly, and there are a lot of people that are willing to help, which is great. What were the other ones? Sorry.
Yeah, so obviously awareness, but I think you've touched upon it, like the partners, the staff, you know, like, and obviously with any business that you're going to go through those stages, aren't you, where you're like, okay, I know I now need to put a little bit money, maybe more into awareness, but I still can't afford the staff, you know. And I think it's, you know, you will get there over time. The fact is that you've gone from something where you were at a low, not knowing how much longer you could go, right? And being part of this world, to working through your own depression and anxiety. And at the end of it, being able to now help so many others is a very cool thing, beautiful thing to see come. So like you said, some of those business struggles are quite minor compared to what you're actually doing collectively.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I have a lot of moments where I kind of pinch myself and be like, oh my gosh, did that actually happen? Or, you know, this is going so well. And, you know, on the weekend, I just found out someone got a tattoo of Be OK. And he's telling me that the last 2 months he's been struggling with a really tough time, and the Instagram and Facebook and all of the positive vibes that were coming from what community we've created has helped him so much that he wanted a permanent reminder on his body. And for me, that just like blows my mind. But I think another thing I struggle to do, like I said before, is saying no. And I do want to help as many people as possible. And it's hard for me to, 2 weeks ago, we supported Lifeline, and we had 80 boxes at a really big lunch event that they had on. And it was so incredible to support Lifeline at this event. But at the same time, we had a couple of other offers of different little events and charities and things like that. But unfortunately, we can't do everything. And being a one-man band, one-woman band, sometimes you have to say no. But I would love to get to the point where I am saying yes, and I'm supporting worldwide different charities and the mental health realm, and get us to where we need it to be.
But you will. It's going to happen, one day at a time. Now, let me ask a little bit of feedback. If you could give any feedback to the listeners out there going through something similar, can you tell us what the thing was that helped you the most? And again, keeping in mind for those that are out there, everyone's journey is very different. So I want to make sure we caveat that. So what worked for you may not work for others, but I still think it's important to hone in on the positive side of things and what did work for you from a positive point of view.
I'd like to start by saying, as someone who has been through really tough times and genuinely didn't think I was going to get out of it, I have. And these tough times won't last. And it's something that words are words. I know that. But if only I could give what's in my mind and what I've experienced to other people to show them it really does suck. And it is hard. And there will be periods that test your longing for life and your reason to be here. But with that, it will make you stronger, and it will make you drive when you get through that period, and it will come. I suppose for me, I wish there was someone during my tough time saying, this won't last. And that was a really big thing for me. I genuinely believed that I would never get better. I genuinely believed that the way I was is the way I will be for the rest of my life. And that is one of the contributing factors as to why I was said to myself, I can't do this for the rest of my life, and why I didn't want to be here. So knowing in your mind, for any listeners that are out there, that it's not going to last, there is support, and you aren't alone. And that's the type of community that we are trying to create. Something that has helped me immensely was going to a psychologist, getting that professional help and creating different methods and tools to push through different situations has really set the foundations for me. If anything else was to happen in my future, I would be a little bit stronger to cope with those times. And it took me nearly a year to find the right psychologist. I'm not sure if you go to a psychologist, but it's like you have to shop. You have to try and look for someone that connects with you, that gives you the advice that you think's best for yourself as well. Listen to yourself and be in tune with what you're feeling when you're with the person, but don't give up. I went through, I think, 6 psychologists and a lot of money and time until I found the lady that I'm with now, and a year on, I still find it one of the most valuable things that I've done, and a real key to me becoming a better person and stronger mindset.
And I do agree with you in that, it's just like when you find a job, it's when you go get a car, it's whatever. I know there's different analogies, but you do have to look around. Not everyone's going to be your cup of tea, which was really great, because if we look at, you saying the psychologist is a great way, but for those out there who are going, life's a little bit rocky at the moment, or I'm struggling, I want to make sure that you guys have the options, particularly in Australia, again, about ways that you can get help.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there is struggling with your own mental health and it's an emergency for whatever reason, please don't mess around. Just contact your emergency services in your area immediately. So obviously in Australia, that's 000. In America and Canada, your 911, and all the other countries. Again, unfortunately, I don't know those particular codes, but call your emergency services. For those not an emergency, such as I think what happened to you and I, is that we knew something wasn't quite right. We needed a little bit of help along the way. We didn't need to be whisked off in the ambulance. But, that's when contact your family doctor or your GP, whatever word you're using in your country. And during the session, be open to them about what's going on. And it's through that conversation with your, family doctor or your GP that they're going to look at, potentially different medications, therapies, referring you on to a specialist like a psychiatrist that I went to. And if you feel nervous about your appointment, like you said, ask family or friends to go with you. They will go with you. I promise you. I promise you they will go with you. And all I can say, is it's like you said, it's going to suck, but it will get better, and it eventually gets better. But the longer you wait to get help, the harder I would find it is, because the demons, whatever you want to call the anxiety, the depression, it's harder and harder, and you've told your brain more times than not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Life sucks or whatever.
I think also for me, one of the barriers was even finances, and I was like, how am I going to fund a psychologist, et cetera, et cetera. I urge anyone that's thinking that it's not that much of a financial burden. And at the end of the day, how much are you putting in weekly for a gym membership? How much are you putting in for those physical things that are helping you? But this is also the same. It's the same concept. And on another line, you've also got Medicare and other support systems that can cover 10 sessions of a psychologist. Give it a go. See if you like it, and that's free. Call around different doctors and different places to investigate prices and different options for you, because there are options. You just need to start looking for them, and you won't regret it.
And what Kietah's talking about is, if you're in Australia and you go to your GP, for example, your family doctor, and they deem that you want to see a therapist, collectively, they will create, it's called the mental health care plan. That's the words you need to use there. And you get 10 sessions per year for free. Now, there can be a little bit of a gap sometimes. Like, I know my doctor, she was like, did the baseline, I think I paid $10 or $15 to see her. So not an enormous amount when you think that a cup of coffee most people drink a day is $5. Well, my sessions worked out to, less than that. So, there are ways that you definitely, can get the help you need. But again, make sure you go to your GP. If it's an emergency, call your emergency services. Please, please, please get the help that you need if you're out there listening. Now, for those listeners who would like to learn more about your BOK Ideas services, tell us, where can they follow you on social platforms, and where can they buy those beautiful boxes if they'd like to, give them to other people or donate? Where can they go to find you?
Absolutely. So we've got a really lovely, beautiful, inspiring Instagram platform. So if you head to BOK Ideas, literally just the letter BOK. And then our website's www.bokideas.com. We've also got a Facebook page, which is BOK Ideas as well. And we've got a Facebook community group, which is an online platform. Anyone, anywhere in the world can come on and access weekly happiness tips, updates, and we all actually share on this platform. So that's called BOK Buddy Community. And it's all about anyone that's on the platform that wants to share, hey, I tried this new sleep method this week and it helped me with XYZ. So share what works for you so that others can give it a go. We've had a guy actually just put a compilation of music together because it was an anxiety-free music method, and he put it on the platform, and so many people have now downloaded it, using it, and he just did that out of, the goodness of his heart. And that's all the lovely people on this platform that want to share and do good.
And if people want to donate, are there options for them to donate?
Yeah, so with Waves of Wellness, our charity partner, you can definitely donate towards Waves of Wellness, and the links are on our website. Another option is that you can purchase a box and donate it to charity, or when you purchase a box, you've got 10% of that going to our charity partner. We've had quite a lot of corporate companies get on board and purchase BOK boxes for corporate wellness programs. And in exchange for larger bulk orders, we've actually donated some to children's charities, homeless shelters, etc. as well. So that's a big part of what we do. And would love the support there.
All right. No, that is fab. Now, I could keep talking to you for a long time, but I know people will probably be like, all right, I got to get back in work. We can't keep listening to Ange and Kietah talk all day. So before we wrap up, I always like to end on something a little bit fun so that we get to know you a little bit more. So what is the one mantra that you're currently living by at the moment?
Oh, this is my favorite. So make your life the story you love to read. So I'm very, very passionate about telling my story now, because I'm proud of my story and my life. Try and see that as something that you can work towards as well. Each day that you're doing, tell it as a story that you want to tell. working through that.
Well, I love that. I love your cause. I love your energy. And I thank you so much for being part of the show today. It's really, really awesome. It's touched my heart, and I will definitely be making contact to explore ideas on how we can support you, do you know what I mean, through the Angela Henderson Consulting moving forward. But in the meantime, my team and I will also be putting together the whole the transcript for this episode at angelahenderson.com.au. And of course, I cover all sorts of things related business and life topics inside my Facebook group, the Australian Business Collaborative of over 3,000 different businesses. Make sure to pop into the community, as I'd love to see you in there also. All right, guys, this is Ange and Kietah. Have an awesome day no matter where you are in the world.
Thank you.
All right, bye, guys. Thanks for listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast with Angela Henderson. www.angelahenderson.com.au